Good afternoon. There's so much to say about this book, but not wanting to take away the joy of discovery and keeping in mind the adage about not giving away the cow with the milk, I'll do my best to be brief. As you can see, the book is in its contemporary speckled calf binding. It's been discreetly rebacked. The original label is still preserved. It has the original end papers. And it's complete with the engraved portrait of Daniel Caldwell, who is identified here as the museum's founder. But that's not actually the case. That distinction goes to Christopher Wren, Robert Boyle, and 10 others who met at Gresham College in 1660. In reality, Caldwell was the Society's treasurer, and he should probably be referred to down here as the sustainer of the Society, because his donations to the Society kept it afloat. The catalogue of the museum is dedicated to him because part of that money that he gave was used to purchase Robert Hubert's Cabinet of Curiosities, which formed the core of the collection. He also paid for the engraving of the plates that illustrate the catalogue. The catalogue has its origins in 1675 when the Society charged Robert Hooke, another Society member, with installing the collection and preparing a catalogue. That catalogue appeared 6 years later, and that's what we have here, written not by Hooke, but by the botanist and another of the Society's founding members, Nehemiah Grew. By that time, the museum had grown through the contributions of the Society's members, and Grew has included at the rear of his book a list of the people who have contributed specimens to the collection. And those members include Robert Boyle, Nehemiah Grew himself, Robert Hooke, and Isaac Newton. You'll also notice that there were people involved with the East India Company and the Royal African Company, and that attests to the international and, in fact, the worldwide reach of this collection. Now, while Hubert, the original owner of the collection, had charged an entrance fee when the museum was his, the Society decided to use it for what they called philosophical and useful purposes, that is to say, research. It was intended to be a general collection of what they also called all the effects of arts and the common or monstrous works of nature. At the beginning of the catalogue, in the section on Animalia, we have what Grew called human rarities. And these included such grisly items as the preserved skin of a Moor, 'tis tanned with the hair of the head, and even the smallest in all the other parts remaining on it. Now, Grew had a particular fascination with just how well preserved the various specimens were, just how detailed they still were, and he was also interested in the way that the specimens were preserved. So in this case, there was a complete vascular system that was brought from the University of Padua by John Evelyn, where he saw them take it out of an actual cadaver. Grew writes, he saw it taken out with great industry and exactness, and very curiously spread upon tables and dried, so exceedingly well done that, in fact, he could compare it and use it to prove some of the theories of contemporary physicians, such as Richard Lauer. Here, again in the Animalia selection or section, we have the description of a Brazilian sloth. I point this out because in my description I mentioned that there are a number of New World specimens in this catalogue. I'm particularly fond of this. The sloth, an animal of so slow a motion that he will be 3 or 4 days at least in climbing up and coming down a tree. Grew also gives us the indigenous names for these animals, as well as the Latin nomenclature and the European words for them. So in this instance, you can see that the natives of Brazil call him Hai, from the voice of a like sound, which he commonly repeats about 6 times together. We see that again here in another New World specimen. I loved this as well, the great sheathed hedgehog, which of course is the armadillo, by the Spaniards called an armadillo, and by the natives of Brazil called tatu. Every copy of this book has the same contemporary corrections and annotations. They're all the same. They're largely in the same hand, so we know these were done in the correcting shop. Some people have speculated that they were actually by Grew himself. They were certainly done under his direction. I mentioned that there were also artifacts of Native American manufacture in this catalog, and here we have a number of currencies that were used in the Americas, including a string of Virginian money. So these are made out of shells, beads, and bone, and thread. And now, I'm sure you've been very patient waiting for this. We can get a look at these beautiful engravings. The hippopotamus skull, the weasel-headed armadillo, the skin from the buttocks of a rhinoceros, tortoise shells, one of them from Virginia, and a special collections favorite, the crocodile skeleton. And the crocodile is discussed at length in the catalog, and it's actually a pretty surprising description, and pardon me, I'll read a tiny bit of it to you. In Brazil, they hunt them much for the sake of their fat, which they commonly and successively apply to their wounds when bitten by them. A crocodile will often come into the houses of the natives, and they will let the children play with them harmlessly. I don't know that I believe that. Here are various birds' nests, fish, here are shells, and as you probably know, engravings of shells are always in reverse from nature. And so any conchologist that you run into will tell you that these are all wrong. Insects, flora, corals, fossils, stones and minerals, as well as metals, and magnets feature in the collection. The second section of this book is a comparative history, a comparative natural history of stomachs and guts, the digestive tracts of animals. And these plates, while of great scientific value, are also just incredibly beautiful and almost abstract, but are in fact minutely rendered and very correct. By the early 1700s, the museum had actually fallen into disarray, and very few of the original artifacts have survived. But the Royal Society itself is still in existence, and it is in fact now the oldest national scientific society in the world. So this is an important record of that collection. And it also speaks to the methods being employed by the modern, early modern scientists. Thanks very much for looking. I hope you enjoyed it.